we're all done and ready. It's just getting the kinks all out of with some of the kids have Zoom classes, others have Google Classrooms, and then everyone's meeting on a Google Hangout. And then we have the WebEx classes. So I have access to all of them in my center. So, you know, it's just once we find out what the teachers want, whether Zoom, Google, WebEx, we take it from there.
Right.
My
I know.
daughter's going through that. She just got hired as the third and fourth grade e-learning teacher at her school. Um, and it was a school she went to. So she's now teaching at the school that her elementary and junior high school. She's now teaching at, which is pretty fun.
Wow, God bless her.
So yeah, she doesn't have her degree yet, but so they're giving her 2/3 pay, and then if she can finish her college this year, then she gets a bonus at the end of the year. So,
Wow. That's really
Whoa.
special.
yeah,
That's special.
so
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
It is
Yeah.
interesting, yeah, what's happening here. Today, July 31st, masks have been made mandatory for all indoor spaces
Yes.
in Nova Scotia.
Okay.
So, yeah, and we presently have no cases, no active cases, no cases at all.
Oh.
Knock on wood. And this has been for now
Wonderful.
16 days. This is the second time it's happened.
Yay.
Last time we reached 20 days, and then we got some cases. Now we're at 16 days again, no cases. But our schools are opening in September, not the universities, they're online, but all schools, private and public, are going to be open. So we're quite concerned about that, to be quite honest with you. A lot of parents are not keen on that.
No, no, I don't
Yeah.
blame them. I don't blame them. That's like we were not keen. We have a lot of parents too who weren't keen about putting their children in, especially the little ones. I mean, they're finding COVID in little ones. They are finding this, it's a communal inflammatory disease that is lined up with COVID vaccine that is being found in teenagers. And it's a very painful inflammatory disease. So far, it can't kill them, but it has horrible symptoms like pain and cramping in the muscles, some breathing issues, sneezing, rash that looks almost like chicken pox or hives on the body. These kids, that's why they tell them keep out of the parks, don't breathe on each other, keep a mask on. But kids, they want to get out.
Yeah.
And it's hard for them. It's hard for us.
Yeah. I don't know how they're going to keep them from hugging or wanting to be close to each other. Because
my daughter Willow, she's cognitively between 11 and 36 months. She's got cerebral palsy and autism. She's not going to school, and she can't learn from a screen either. So we don't know what we're going to do. That's
not easy. Yeah, my children are now, my son just graduated. My children are on the spectrum and have learning differences. But, and that'll be a much bigger challenge again if they were still in school. But it's Corey's struggling because grade 12, still a lot of uncertainty. They haven't even fully graduated yet. So for him, school's not done yet. So even though he's planning on what he's going to do post-secondary, he's still stuck there. So it's a real challenge. Like you said, he just turned 19. So at any given time, behavior-wise, he could be anywhere between, I would say, 7 and 12, 13, 14. But then other times he is close to his chronological age. So it's so up and down, Well, I feel for you, Maria, because we're finding the same thing here in the province of Nova Scotia, that there are students, young youth and young adults with differences who aren't fitting into, like you said, they can't go to school, but they really struggle online. Our daughter does not fare well with any online courses or anything like that either because of her visual spatial issues. Wow.
No, it's very difficult. I mean, I work with several little ones with autism or have the autism spectrum. And I know one little boy that I worked with, his name was Connor, 8 years old. But the only way he learned how to spell is he needed to have toy blocks in front of him. So I always had the little building blocks with the letters and the numbers on the table. And he always needs, because he's got the sensory issues, he had this little reading buddy with him called Biblio. It was a little dog that went around his neck. It would keep him, and his mother would warm it up, and it had a little lavender smell to it, so it would keep him calm during the tutoring session. But he always needed it near him, and we needed the blocks. So if he had trouble spelling, we get the blocks and we spell out his name, spell out a number, spell out cat, dog, and then make sentences from the words that we piled up on the table or piled up, you know, in a house. And then we work. But for me to work with him on screen, there isn't that give and take that these kids need. And then, you know, kids like that need the constant gratitude. And Maria, Deanna, we know this. I mean, yeah. And they need that high five. Yeah, high five. And they hear that high five and they see it or they get that hug. But they can't get it on a screen. They can't.
I know, that's the hardest. So we have to do things like this. And even the kids, sometimes the kids don't like the Zoom meetings. Like my friend's daughter here doesn't really like doing the Zooms. But how long did you want this to end at 2, Angelica? I figured we would do some housekeeping.
Yeah, we could end it at 2. We could end, I mean, whatever. I'm not in school yet, and I'm not at work today.
Okay.
Obviously, you could tell by my background, I'm home. So
I'm I love it. I love all your Titanic decorations.
Yeah, I wanted my whole office ready and prepared for school because I wasn't sure if we were going to be online or, you know, either online or I was going to be in school for my own classes. So so at least I have, you know, I have my file cabinet ready. I have my wall ready so that when I'm in class, it looks nice and neat and tidy. And I wanted it to be inspiring for me. And then I have all my Arthurian. I'm going to turn my screen a little bit because I love King Arthur. So I have all my Arthurian.
Oh, awesome.
So you see, I have my Arthurian. I have my Arthurian wall here. And from here down, these 3 are actually my school books in theology, English literature, mythical writing, basically everything, all my courses that I'm taking at this particular time. My whole workload this whole semester is going to be on my English major and my creative writing major. It's all on poetry and social justice, supernatural stories that I love, myth and magic, and then also literary theory. So how do we create literature and, you know, promote the theory and philosophy of writing into our stories? So I'm really looking forward. This whole semester is nothing else but everything I love and enjoy in life. And I wish I was going to be in the classroom enjoying my fellow, you know, classmates with it, but what can you do? I had the option. I had the option of either be in school or online. And to be honest with you, taking 2 trains, maybe 3, crowded with all of this going on, no, not happening. This girl's not stepping in, not doing that 4 days a week. Crazy. So anyway, I think we should begin. It's already 1:13.
I know. I thought maybe we'd try something new before you talk. I wondered if everybody wanted to introduce themselves. Like, you know, if we were, because I was trying to make this like a real book club. So if everybody wants to introduce themselves, and then we'll turn it over to Angelica. Marie.
How about
who wants?
I see Maria over there. Maria, introduce yourself.
Maria, do you want to start? Tell us a little about yourself.
let's see, I'm Maria Kavanaugh. I have twin daughters with disabilities. I'm very proud of them. I'm a witch, which is a good thing, by the way. It's a good thing. We don't do bad magic. And I love stuff about the Titanic. And I'm an artist. So I'm going to be doing a piece in needle felting, and it's going to be the Titanic. I don't know how it's going to come out, but.
Maria, before you get off, I have to say, I want to publicly say this. I didn't put it up. I received this package from Maria.
Oh, from the museum. It looks like a Titanic Historical Society museum package.
It is, and it has this beautiful book in it.
That's the last copy of the commutator, is it? The last printed copy?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Oh, Maria's so nice.
And it's with a beautiful note on it. It says, "Here is the magazine I told you about. This is the last one published. They are making the membership, and they switched to an online copy now with the membership. So enjoy." I will, Maria. I can't wait. And
nice gift.
I'm going to contact them to see if I could write an article for them about my uncles. And then in there.
Oh, yeah. Karen Kamuta is always looking for people to write articles.
And in here, I received this beautiful, beautiful 3D postcard. Look how gorgeous that is.
Oh, it is gorgeous.
Maria, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Beautiful. I'm going to put it in a frame and put it up on the wall. And then, if I wasn't wearing this dress and I was wearing a sweater, I would have worn these today. But look at these beautiful little pins.
Oh, wow.
This.
Oh,
that's
so
nice.
And in the book, there's a membership application. Thank you, Maria, for sending that along with
You're
it.
welcome.
I'm honored and privileged. Thank you. It's so beautiful. So beautiful. I'll treasure it forever. And with it, since Maria and I are both Arthurian folklore people, she sent me some copies of poetry.
Nice. That's
Arthurian
nice.
studies. So,
yeah, it's from a book I have from 1899.
Whoa.
Yeah, so we enlarged it for you.
And I have to show them. Such a beautiful postcard. Her children. Look at this. Her children's graduation. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, wow. Oh.
That's very nice.
Those are your two daughters, Maria?
Yeah.
What's your other daughter's name? I know
Sarah.
Willow. Sarah? Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Sarah means princess, and she really is.
Oh,
she
wonderful.
It's weird. She fell in love with Princess Diana, like completely on her own. And we took her, I think they were turning 13, and they had an exhibit in Connecticut with all of Diana's like things and wedding gown and stuff. And we took her and we got to stand next to it, and she was amazed.
Wow.
So.
Wow. Oh, I love the kind people in this community. So nice.
Yep.
All right, who wants to go next? Terry, Richard, Deanna?
I'll go.
Okay, Terry, you're on the floor.
Hi, my name's Terry. I'm a massive Titanic fan. I'm becoming a massive Olympic fan as well. This is an old saying, so don't anybody get offended. At Olympic, I'll say one thing: she was a tough old broad. Oh man, she's like a Timex watch. But she took a licking and kept on ticking. I just love her. After I'm almost done with Wade Sisson's book, what's it called again? Racing Through the Night.
Racing Through the Night, yes.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm starting to be really in love with her. She really, they pretty much turned up all the boilers to try to get to Titanic. Just amazing. So, and I also like, a lot of rock music, NFL. Hope we can get a season, but but and I love horses. I love horses and the SS
Oh, I
California.
follow you on Instagram. I love all your horse pictures.
I love horses too. Oh, yeah.
And Terry was just joined our admin team. She joined Richard and I to help out the book club.
Very cool. Yeah.
Welcome. She's awesome.
All right. Who's next?
All right. Who's next? Richard, Deanna?
I don't know.
I guess.
Richard, you go first.
Okay. I'm Richard, and I was the guy in high school and grade school and stuff that ran the projector, and like I'm still that guy. So I'm doing the PowerPoint today for Angelica. So we've got a bunch of pictures. So getting ready. But anyway, I've been a huge ship fan forever and ever and ever and ever, and historian, former railroad museum curator. So history's just kind of running through my blood. So there we go.
Yeah. And Richard, I swear, if I wish I had a picture of him next to me. You remind me so much of my cousin Matthew. It's crazy. Every time I look at you, I could see him. You look just like my cousin. Except he doesn't have a beard, but the two of you both sound alike too. It's ironic.
That's awesome. All right,
So,
Deanna, your turn.
Okay. I'm Deanna. I go by Dee. Everybody calls me Dee. I'm originally from Newfoundland. I'm a Newfoundland girl, and I live in Nova Scotia, Canada, just outside Halifax. So I spend a lot of time in Halifax, and I've always been very interested in history, particularly marine history. We studied a lot of marine history in school in Newfoundland, including a lot of Titanic. So I became very interested when I was young. And when I was 11 years old, I remember I was having a bath or something, and I was splashing around in the water, and I thought to myself, where will I be when Titanic is in her resting place, the Atlantic Ocean, 100 years? And 100th anniversary came, just about 6 months after the main events. We officially started the Titanic Society of Atlantic Canada, and I'm president. So I didn't imagine anything like that, but I am honored by all the people I've met, all the things I've done, and the travel I've done, because I've been to Belfast and spoke on Titanic Atlantic Canadian connections, because there's so many of them. So if any of you have not been to Halifax yet, I know of course Angelica has, but there's almost 30 Titanic related sites here, and they're very cool, very cool to go and see. And I'm always happy, like I said, to tour with people, because I learn something new all the time, and they learn something new, and it's really fun. Of course, with COVID, not an easy thing to do this year, but we've had several tours and things that we've had to postpone, and events. But next year, hopefully for next year. And I'm honored to know Angelica. We met through social media, but I had the honor of, with my husband, working on her book. So design, and I worked on editing with her, and it was pretty cool. So I'm happy that I'm able to be here today as well to kind of hear what Angelica has to say. It was interesting, the last time Angelica, we were on screen, Angelica said something about her aunt, and I'd never heard it before. So like I say, you learn something new all the time. So I'm very excited to hear what people have to say and ask Angelica about today and stuff. That's me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you guys could make it again, since we had some technical difficulties, I'll call them, at our last meeting.
Yeah.
Let me say one thing. Working with Dee and Neil on my book was a joy and also a hair ripper. Because Dee, let me tell you about Dee. She's a taskmaster when it comes to item 1, editing, and item 2, formatting. I don't know how many times we went over it over and over again just to get it right and perfect, to make sure the pictures were set right and this was set right. And she's going, no, Ange, I found another mistake on page here or page there, or the picture didn't set right or whatever. Go look and see what it looks like. Before you knew it, it was there. We got it. We got it done.
And
So
that's the thing, right? Because we're working, you're in New York and I'm in Halifax. So it was kind of neat having to do everything online. Yeah,
yeah, but we did it.
we did
And
it.
and sometimes we had a Skype meeting over it and just went over things together, and it became it became for both of us more than just, you know, editor and author. It became a deepening of friendship and a sisterhood. And I wish my brother Neil was with us today,
I know, I know.
but he's in the group picture up there with us. And of course,
Oh, cool. You got it up to the frame. Look at that.
yeah, look, I got my wall made. I got my wall
Yeah,
up.
because that's time you were
Oh, I
working on that.
love it.
Oh, it looks good. Yeah.
Yeah, at the
Wow,
bottom you
that's
could see my daughter and her girlfriend, and my son and his fiance. So
Yeah.
so
Oh, nice.
yeah, there.
oh, I love it.
So we're
The reason I want to tell you guys the reason my camera's off is I'm having some technical difficulties with my computer lately, and it has been giving me a hard time. So
Okay.
it seems to give me less of a hard time when I just keep my screen off. But you can see that picture of me. That was at the 2012 Titanic Historical Society convention for the 100th
you're
anniversary. So I
beautiful.
figured
That's great.
Love
that
that.
would be nice and appropriate. So I'm going to introduce Angelica. This is Angelica Harris, and she put, what is it, like 42 years of research into your family members, your uncles by your husband, Alberto and Sebastiano Paracchio. Did I say that right? They were
Orakio.
from Italy. Paracchio, okay. I won't tell too much about them because I'm sure she's going to tell you, but I saved something here and I thought it was great. It was a book review by one of our members, Michael Standard. And I just wanted to read his review here before turning it over. So what he wrote here is on Amazon is, it's not often that one sees a Titanic related book focus on anything other than some of the passengers, and notably the first class passengers, as well as notable crew members, all of which makes this book a refreshing change. The sad reality is that all too often you see the people who were part of the crew as well as the third class passengers are notoriously obscure, and for want of any close research or even any surviving records, they remain that way. So is SIG means senor?
Yes.
Okay. For Senor Alberto Paracchio and his brother Sebastiano, you see the following notation on Encyclopedia Titanica. Both men died in the sinking. Their bodies, if recovered, were never identified. In early editions of Corriere della
Oh, yeah.
Sera, it was reported that Alberto Paracco had been rescued. Sadly, they were never rescued. For Angelica Harris, this journey, which started in 1976 and up to the present day, was a personal one, as she is related to both of these men by way of marriage. It was also clearly frustrating at times, as she had to comb through libraries, newspaper morgues and get what she could from surviving relatives to get even the tiniest bits of information on the brothers. One may wonder that she got as little as she did, but I would have to point out that the real wonder of it was that she got as much as she did. The people who crewed the Titanic weren't out to make history. They just wanted to make a living, and for some, the choices they made didn't always go over well with their families. They were seen as background players who were essentially invisible. Angelica's work goes a distance to correct that oversight, and one can only hope that more researchers will step up to the plate and do the same with the rest of the crew. The book comes in English language section as well as Italian, and the center is a collection of illustrations which include photostats of newspaper articles, sign-in sheets, and period photos, as well as photos of people who were part of her journey to put put a face to the names and tell the story of two people who deserved far better than to be a pair of obscure names on a casualty list. That makes this book an essential addition to any library of a serious student of Titanic. I wanted to share that because I thought that was such a great
Wow.
explanation of.
I never read that before. That's amazing. I had no
You
idea
really,
that review was out. That's gorgeous.
you really should. And then our Joanna here wrote a beautifully written and informative book. I really enjoyed reading this book. It's a firsthand account of Angelica Harris's journey to find out what exactly happened to her relatives by marriage, the Paracchio brothers. The book details her journey to determine how and where the brothers, her husband's uncles, lived prior to their employment of Titanic and how they died. It is an endearing story that will keep the memory of these two men alive for many more generations. Angelica's description of her research also sheds light on the countless hours that are spent by many who are determined to find out more regarding the lives and deaths of Titanic's passengers and crew. It's a painstaking process that is often lost on the readers. She highly recommends this book. She does talk some more, but yeah, you should definitely go and read your reviews. And I'm asking everyone here in the book club, reviews are really important because, you know, they give people an idea, you know, is this a book I should read or not read, you know? So and I think authors like Angelica can appreciate getting, you know, some feedback from people. So definitely go on because there's more, Angelica, and I'm going to turn this over to you now.
There are more reviews on the Amazon page, really? I have to look.
Yep.
Oh, goodness.
Yes.
I didn't know. I've been
Yeah.
so I've been so busy the past, few months. I haven't even looked to see if they were there. Oh my goodness, thank you for letting me know.
You're
Wow.
welcome.
But I'm going to open it up with an irony. I wanted to be in Canada so much this summer. So I'm going through clothes and I'm going from winter to summer clothes in the closet. And I take out a jacket that I love to wear in the summer. And what do I find in it? A Lord Nelson key.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So
You're supposed to be there in June, weren't you? You're supposed to be there at the end of May, 1st of June.
right. So here I am with a Lord Nelson key for the Lord Nelson Hotel on Spring Street across the street from the public garden. So I guess well, my room is waiting.
Oh, is that in Halifax?
Yeah.
It's right
Oh,
in a
wow.
really beautiful area just before downtown Halifax. It's lovely. And the
Oh,
Lord
Like I
Nelson
said,
Hotel
I guess my room is waiting for me to go.
is.
oh,
That's where
neat.
the 2018 Titanic International Society and Titanic Society of Atlantic Canada joint convention was held in 2018. And of course, Angelica was there. She launched her book there. And she's been here 2 other times too. So 2017 and 2019.
Yep.
And I was really missing you here this summer. Yeah.
I missed you too. Anyway, before we go, I know I didn't give this to Richard, but I wanted to show this picture first because this gentleman here is Zia Modesto, who was in my book the whole way through, and his wife, Zia Angela. And in the middle is my husband on our wedding day, but we weren't married
Oh,
yet. This is at my mother-in-law's house right before the wedding, and this is the picture they took. Um, my wedding album's too big. I'm not going to get it out, but there is a group picture of all of us together at the reception. But this is on my wedding day, and like maybe an hour before we said I do. But
oh, wow.
yeah, I mean they were incredible. Zia Ann and Zia Mo were two of the most gracious people you could ever meet. And I say that
Oh,
I say that because when I first met the two of them, I was only 19 and John was a little older than me, and it was the first time he took me to see them. And I remember being really, really nervous that day because my being that Zia Ann is my mother-in-law's sister, she my mother-in-law would say, "Oh, wait till you meet my sister. She's got a mouth on her, and she judges everybody." And so John and I are in the car, and I was like, what kind of people are these going to be? You know, I know Italian mothers and Italian people who could be very judgmental. And I'm thinking, is she going to like me? So I made sure that day I got really dressed nice. And well, I walked in the door, and this house was one of the most beautiful country like homes you could ever meet, you could ever see. But the minute I walked in the door, I'll never forget. My husband introduces me as, here's Angela. This is our, you know, my girlfriend. And oh, finally we meet her, you know, with open arms. And I'll never forget the big hug and kiss I got even before I walked in the door. It's about time you come here. And then we started to talk, and lunch was right outside in their veranda. Mind you, because, you know, when you have, even though they had money, so to speak, back then, they both came from absolutely nothing. I mean, my mother-in-law and her sister had a mother who practically raised them by herself. Um, the woman taught her daughters how to sew and cook and clean and work hard and make a living and go to school. I mean, Bisnoni was an amazing woman that unfortunately I never had a chance to meet. And then ZMO came from, you know, a family who worked very hard on the ship docks in Fubina, Alessandria. And his education was very much on the docks, just like his brothers were. So for people who came from absolutely nothing, they had this home that looked like royalty to me. And when I walked in there, I mean, basically their dining room set was completely made by ZMO. The table and the credenza and the chairs, he designed himself. Their kitchen furniture was made by him. He had, not only was he gifted as a chef and a professional chef, but he was also gifted in carpentry. So everything in the house was practically made by him. But that day we went out to the veranda, and the whole veranda, everything that was out there, the furniture, the canopy was made by both of them. And here I am sitting in this magical arboretum with this beautiful furniture, hand created. And there's a spread on the table of food that I'm looking and go, oh my giddy heart. This is lunch. Yeah, I felt like I was at a wedding. But being that ZMO is a professional chef, or was, God rest him, he created a meal that was fit for a princess. And we started talking about the family. They got to know me. They got to know my family through what I had to talk to them about. And then I started to get to know him, and he was talking about him being, at that time, he had just retired from being the head chef at Sardi's restaurant on Broadway. So, which is a major restaurant where all actors and actresses go after Broadway shows. So I was very impressed by that. But then he was talking about owning his own restaurant. And at the time they had their own little eatery or bistro there in Peekskill, New York. And it was just getting to know them and getting to know where they came from. And I wasn't born in Italy, but I was born here. And I talked to them about my parents coming from Naples and Rome and Sicily, and they both were from Fubina, and of course my mother-in-law. And it got to be such a warm welcoming that I'll never forget it for as long as I live. But then dinner was done, lunch was done. We were talking more about other things, and then we went downstairs into their family room. And what's sitting on their family, on the credenza in the family room, is a picture about this big, by that big, of Titanic. And on the sides are two little cameo pictures of the boys. So I looked and I go, Titanic? And my uncle says, yes, Titanic. Do you have family members on Titanic? I said, no, I just read about it in school and did a report about it. And he says, then you know more than I do. And I said, I read a book, 2 books, went to the library. So I started talking about, he says, tell me what you know. It left England. It was supposed to come to America, or it hit an iceberg. She died. Yeah, but do you know about any of the passengers or crew? I said, only what I read about in the history books, that's all, you know. And I was calling him more Mr. Paracchio. He goes, no, Zemo, please call me Zemo. So I'll never forget Zia Ann coming into the room with dessert. And oh my God, after eating all the food that we ate, you know, Italian women with the desserts, there was the coffee and the cakes and the ice cream and this and that, everything on the tray. And she's looking at me and she's looking at my uncle and she goes, oh, Mo, come on. She doesn't want to hear all this. I said, yes, I do. Yes, I do. So when he told me that his brothers were on Titanic, I was in shock. I felt like, what? Your brothers? Really? And before you knew it, we were in such a conversation about them. And he says, I was a little boy when they died. I didn't know what happened to my brothers. See, those are the pictures I'm talking about. They were the family pictures, but of course, as you could see, Alberto e Sebastiano Paracchio, deduci in naufragio del Titanic 14 Abril 1912, and he ended up being, of course, their death picture from Titanic, because there weren't any bodies. But I want to bring something out before Richard goes any further. The bow tie that Alberto was wearing and the silk corset that Sebastiano was wearing, their mother made that for them. And every time they took a picture, thank you, Richard, every time they took a picture, they would wear the bow tie or the flower to let mama know that they were okay. It was their signal, we're okay. Everything is okay, because, you know, in those days, it's not like us. We have our cell phones and we have our cameras and we could, I mean, there was no such thing as that. So, so when those pictures were sent, Grandma knew that they were okay. But I just, you know, ZMO just looked at me at the end of the day and started asking me would I take over and look for his brothers. And my husband and I are sitting there, and I looked at my husband and I said to him, I said, well, we're not married yet. I mean, I'm not even your niece. I mean, and I don't even know if we're all getting married. And, you know, here is an old man. I can't even call him an old man, but this man right here with that beautiful, kind face. I have to show you. Look at that face on him.
Oh,
that face.
Looks so nice.
And this man with his amazing, kind blue eyes looked at me and looked at John. And I'll never forget, he said, the way you two are looking at each other, you're going to get married. And I said,
aww.
And he just came over to me, and I'll never forget the way he went like this on my face. He says, you're beautiful. My nephew's so lucky. Who knew, you know, that he was predicting a lifetime that we were going to be together, but he knew. And a year or so later, we were engaged. And after we got engaged, you know, go up there, or he was at the wedding, he said, see, I know. But that was just the beginning of so many things that were going to happen between Zia Mo and Zia Ann and I. I mean, on the we had gotten married, and I mean, I had grown so close to them. And when Zia Ann was diagnosed with spinal cancer, it was a blow to everybody. And um, John and I were married, I think, a little over a year when she passed away. And I felt like because I grew to know this woman so well and so for so long, and being that we both shared the same name, I mean, they were Modesto and Angela, and because my real name is Angela Filomena, um, Zia
Oh,
Mo,
okay.
when Zia Ann died, I'll never forget the days of the funeral. He came over to me and he said, Cara, Benequi. I said, what is it, Zia Mo? He says, Acetida, sit next to me. And I said, but that's Zia Ann's chair. I can't sit there next to you. He said, you have her name. You have her kind heart.
Oh.
You sit next to me. And it was something, because when I sat in that chair, I knew right then and there, not only was I attached to him forever and ever, but I was attached to a mission that he gave me. And at the table that day, he looked at me and says, did you hear anything about my brothers? Did you hear anything? And I kept telling him, Zia Mo, all I get from relatives is they're dead. Leave them alone. He says, yeah, my wife's dead too. She got sick. But does it mean that I don't remember her? No. Look what we're doing today at the table. We're remembering her. Well, why not my brothers? I didn't know my brothers. And he was so adamant that day. The tears were just flowing because, he never knew his brothers because he was a little boy when he died. And then now his wife died, and somebody give me something. Tell me something. And when those tears kept flowing down his face, I thought, no, 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 that's it. I have to keep going. And I kept going, asking this cousin, sending a letter here, making phone calls. And of course, every milestone I made was the same word: dead. Dead and buried, dead and gone, leave it alone. Titanic sank, she's gone. Leave her alone. And okay, but your uncle wants information. And then, of course, I got from some people, well, who do you think you are? You're his niece through marriage. Why do you want it? Why are you talking for him? Because he wants me to talk for him. I'm his voice and he needs information. So would you please give me something? And it wasn't until his first cousin through Zia Etta, Eva said to me, oh, all right, I got something for you. So she wrote me a little note with all the brothers' names and everybody else in the family and where they lived in Fubino, how they were schooled. Just little. It was a piece of paper about this big by this big, and it had that much written on it. That's all she gave me. But at least with that much, I could build that much. Because with that much information, I was able to start searching. Who lived here? Who lived there? Who worked here? What happened where? And before you knew it, the pieces, one piece, top of the other, on top of the other. And being a historian now, we all know that when you're a historian, you get one little piece, one little artifact, and that one little artifact builds to bigger ones and bigger ones and bigger ones. Before you know, I kept thinking that's all I'm doing is I'm in an archaeological dig for Titanic and for the boys.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband used to laugh because I'd have pictures of Titanic books spewed out all over the floor and mapping Italy and Halifax, not Halifax, I'm sorry, Italy, yes, Halifax. Where else? I'm sorry, Belfast Lock, England. You know, pictures of her. Where were they? How did they get there? Whatever. And but those pictures became a map. But not only, I'll never forget Charlie Haas. Charlie Haas and Jack Eaton's book, Titanic Destination Disaster, came out. And I picked it up and I started to read it. And then it was talking about boys, Luigi Gotti, Fubina Alessandria, entrepreneur. Well, okay. ZMO said that Alberto had worked on the Olympic for a while, and then it goes on to Luigi worked on the Olympic. So now pieces of the puzzle are getting even bigger. And then then it started talking about our mutual friend, Richard McMichael. And I decided, and he's the senior entrepreneur for the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic in Nova Scotia. So I made a call. And Richard and I were on the phone for a good hour and better. And he looked on his microfiche and in his books, and we talked about Alberto and Sebastiano, and he asked me how I could be, you know, family, and I told him. And before you knew it, we were talking about them, and I realized why I was having so much trouble finding them in the books. Their names were misspelled over and over again. So instead of Paracchio, Peraccio, it was Petracco, Patrico, Patricio. So how can you find people, you know, in history books or passengers or crew members when their names are misspelled? And you're looking for one spelling and they're another. And before you knew it, Richard and I were able to change the spelling of their names, and he let a lot of other people know and in the history books that their names were misspelled. And that's when I found them. That's when I really could say that I found them. And this man, Richard McMichael, is such a dear and wonderful man. He helped me in so many ways. And for me, being a stranger on the phone, coming from New York, like when I met Dee through Facebook and then in person, it was as though I knew them forever and ever. And that's how I felt when I met Richard for the first time, that when I met him in 2017 with Dee and a few other members of our Titanic, you know, society, that day I'll never forget the embrace that we had. It was 40 years of searching, and here he was, Richard McMichael, the man who led me in the right direction. And from there on, I was able to search out, find more family members, talk to more family members, and get more information. And then, of course, speak to my cousins who are in this book. And let me find some pictures. And these are the direct family members to ZMO. As you could see, he's over here. So these are his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren. And Denise and Dennis, who are up here as children, they are now here.
Aww.
Denise. And this is her brother, Dennis Paracchio. These two people were amazing in helping me find information or just talking to me. And the more information I found, I mean, after ZMO died, I need to go back a little bit. In between, of course, John and I got married, we had children. When I had my daughter, Andrea, he wrapped her in his arms and rocked her back and forth and sang a song to her, an Italian song, but of course had to add his brother's names into it.
Aww.
But
that.
but after he died, I just looked and I said to Denise and Dennis, "Do I have your permission to keep going on?" Because they are his grandchildren. And they looked at me and go ahead. And then when I was writing the book, you know, they gave me their pictures, and this is our lineage.
Oh.
And this is Zemo with his sister Antonietta and with his niece Maria.
Oh.
And right up here is, this was a tragedy, but this is Zia Ann with their son Dennis. And this is Dennis as a little boy. And unfortunately, Dennis died when he was 32 years old of kidney cancer. So, yeah, it was very important for ZMO to find his brothers. It was very important to find some closure in his family because he had so many losses in his life, too many. You know, his brothers, and then his son dies at a young age, and then he loses his wife. I mean, people like that, all they want to know is they want to keep holding on to their family as much as they can. So I made a promise, and I promised him I would do so. And from then on, I
love that.
This picture I drew of Titanic one day when I was just trying to figure out different things. And then one of my students drew this picture. And as the years progressed, there's the picture of the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic, and down below is Richard McMichael in a scene of Titanic sitting in a fake deck chair. And there's G&I.
That's awesome.
And this lady is the first editor of the thesis book, but then of course our D is right with us, who is the executive editor of the whole book. But, yeah, Richard, if you want to share some pictures, please do so. I share the screen. Let's see some pictures so we could go through them together. If anyone has any questions, please ask me. So right here, this is the deck chair at the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic. And it's funny because if you look in the glass, that's D and that's me in the glass. Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
It's D and I.
Oh.
Our faces get lost in Titanic, but look, you can see our bodies in the glass. That's so hard. That's so
I love it.
That's so funny. Okay, that's D and I, and that picture's up on my wall up there because you're always with me. And then that's the group from Titanic convention.
From the TIS convention?
Right.
Oh,
wow. Dean, Neil, and Tom and his wife, Emma. And then there's Warren and Henrietta and Josh and Christine and Matt DeLuca. I mean, it's the whole Cheryl Wrinkle and everyone else. Our whole group. Now, we should have been together this year. And this is...
Oh, was there supposed to be a convention this year?
Yeah, well, in Boston, but that didn't happen. COVID-19 killed it off. But this is the first official picture of all of us. And that's Richard and Christine and Tom and Matt and Stacy Klein from the Titanic channel, and yours truly right there.
Oh, I talked to her before. Nice to see her face. Oh, Tom looked like he was part of that poster.
That's the official crew. In the background, there's Dee's brother, Rob, in the red t-shirt, and there's Warren and James, and let's see, Dee and Neil, Christine, Henrietta Mann, Dr. Henrietta Mann, my husband and I, Matt, Tom, whole crew, just having fun, enjoying.
Wait, can you go back? What is that? What is that restaurant? It's beautiful. Is that an old restaurant, Dee? It looks so beautiful. Oh, I think she's muted. Like, I'm gonna unmute her.
Unmute.
Sorry about that. It is the Old Triangle Pub. It's a 3-level Irish pub in Halifax, owned by a gentleman from Belfast. And we're in the room called the Seneca.
Can you go back to that picture, Richard? It's so beautiful. Like, just, is that a really old building?
Yeah, the building would be, actually, that building, parts of it survived the Halifax explosion. So yes, it's quite old.
Whoa,
Yeah.
it just looked like it had so much character.
Yeah, oh, it's amazing. So actually, Angelica and I were there a few times. We were in one of the snug rooms, right, Angelica? That was kind of cool.
Yeah, it
But
was.
we're upstairs in the Seneca here. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That is such a neat. I wish I could see the whole thing. Maybe it's online. I'll have to look it up.
You can look at the Old Triangle. The gentleman also has an affinity to Titanic, so there's actually Titanic-related images on the walls. Hard to see from here, but yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
really? The Old Triangle, you called it?
Old
It's
Triangle
called?
Pub.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the ambiance there is amazing. It's very ship oriented, and you feel like you're going into it's almost like you feel like you're going into a shipping restaurant in on land. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Oh,
It's just 1 block
wow.
away
Yeah.
from the Museum of the Atlantic. Like literally, it's 1 block away.
And the food,
Old Triangle Irish Ale House.
That's it.
Wow.
the food is so good. You don't want to stop eating. I mean, just keep it coming. The ice cream, the
Wow.
coffee, I mean, the wine, just keep it pouring. Thank you very much.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it looks like you guys said. Thank you for going back to that, Richard. Thank you for explaining that, Dee and Angelica. Wow, it's fun.
I love this picture.
Angelica has a great way of taking you along on her journey, which really her book does the same thing. You speak like you write, so you just take people along,
That's
Wonderful.
me. But this is John and I at the gala dinner at the Titanic International Society Convention and TSAC. Oh, I'm tongue tied. But that's us all dressed up,
Oh, you look beautiful.
period pieces.
How is your husband with everything? Is he real gung ho, wants to learn too, or like just supportive husband, or
Oh, yeah.
somewhere in between?
Yeah. Sometimes you just okay, don't bother me. Just keep going.
But this is his family, so it's got to be exciting too. Like you unearthed a whole big portion of his family history.
Yeah, yeah. But this is my husband.
Oh.
My daughter Andrea, my son John, who took after his Zia Modesto and his two uncles. He is a professional chef and owns his own restaurant. So he got the family jewels all together. And of course, his fiance is in the back. That's actually John's 65th birthday party picture. It's a family from last year. We had fun with that. That's why all the decorations are around.
It looks so nice. It's a beautiful family photo.
Thank you.
Oh,
yeah.
This is nice. You have some more photos from last time.
Now this is my wedding table. Now, of course, that's Ann and Zemo, and then Uncle. This is my mother-in-law and my father-in-law, John and Doris Ocasio. And Kate and Uncle Adolph, Uncle Sal, and Aunt Mary. That was Zemo's and Mom's table at the wedding. Yep. I can't believe, I can't believe that was 40. John and I will be married 40 years in September. I can't believe it was 40 years ago.
Wow.
That picture was taken.
Wow.
Yeah, Zemo was not so great with taking pictures because he was always telling everybody, please leave me alone. But there he is. And this was the first time I was at the Fairview Lawn Cemetery, and I tell you, when we drove up that day, I was shaking because when you see that cemetery, you see it only in the history books, and that's basically all that cemetery was a picture in the history book. But then to be there in person, it was like it was so surreal because when I saw Luigi's gravestone, I just said to Dee, I said, "It's real. It's real, Dee. I'm here, and it's real, and he's real." Because the minute you look at that gravestone, and the minute you see all those graves lined up, you know how real Titanic is. Because that
Right.
day, this is an unmarked grave, and could my uncle be in that grave? One of them? Who knows? Do I want to find out?
Right.
No. Mm-mm. This is sacred ground. You don't you don't touch sacred ground, and these people are. I mean, the number 179, as in the number 313, that is the rank file of how they were found. This body was the 179th body found or identified from the wreck of on Titanic, and we have um, Snow's mortuary to thank for that because they were the ones who made sure that each body received a tag while it was on the Mackie Bennett and in the mortuary for how it needed to be categorized. And um, I had the honor of meeting the grandson of John Snow, who, when Dee introduced me to him, was such a gracious man. And he told us the story about his grandfather and how he started the mortuary, and to be in his funeral parlor and to be in their um, Titanic room, it was such an honor to be with him and to talk with him. And Dee had grabbed a hold of me and she brought me to him, and she says her uncles were on the ship, and all I could say to him was thank you for taking care of everyone on the ship.
Oh.
He said, well, it wasn't me, it was my grandfather, but he carries the legacy because you could tell just by his funeral parlor how he respects the dead. And I mean, you the funeral parlor, just beautiful. It's so inviting. And we know how death is. Death is forever. But to go into a funeral parlor and realize that you are welcomed and someone is there to take care of your family member and you, it's just a wonderful feeling. Neil, hi.
Hello.
Aww.
To see Neil for a few minutes. He's on his way to an appointment, but here he is.
Aww. Hi.
My Titanic brother.
Aww.
I wanted to say in that picture, it brings back memories, all of this, but the gentleman sitting in that last picture, I've been sitting listening to Angelica read her poem. That's Alan Ruffman, and he's written about Titanic. He's quite a historian who knows quite a bit about the Halifax history, and he's become a friend, and he's a member of our Titanic Society of Atlantic Canada as well. So, but Snow's Funeral Home and other places like that are places that you can tour and go and see as part of the history, which Angelica, it was a pleasure to do that with Angelica. So, yeah.
Can you say his name again? Alan
Ruffman, Alan Ruffman.
Okay.
He wrote the book called Titanic Remembered.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, so, and he lives in Halifax, as does Dr. Henrietta Mann, etc. So, yeah, so we're just kind of looking at photographs and commenting on different things. Yeah.
I've got to run. Bye.
You could continue.
Hi, nice to see you.
Thanks, Richard, for your patience.
So when you're ready, Richard, you could.
I love all these little tidbits we're learning.
Richard, thank you so much.
I know you're doing a
Thank
great.
God.
He's such a great.
Great job. Yeah.
You guys are welcome. It's my pleasure.
So, whenever you're ready, next slide. I feel like a celebrity with you doing this.
It should be up.
You are. You're the star of the show.
Oh.
Is the slide up?
It's showing us her at Luigi Gotti's headstone there.
Is that the last one? It's okay. You can always open the book and show pictures through the book too.
So what book is that you're holding there?
That was when we were doing the commemorations. Dee had her book with all the names of the remains interred, and my poem that I wrote to commemorate the remains of the dead were in there, and I was reading my poem. Actually, Dee was the first one to read my poem the year before because I couldn't get there. So I had I wrote the poem because I couldn't be there, and Dee read it the first time and took a picture of me of her reading it for me to send it. And then I had the privilege of reading it at the commemoration that day. And I'd like to read it to you if you don't mind.
I was going to ask.
I will read it.
That would be great.
Can you see the slide up there?
Yes, it's me reading the poem.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you were able to see it because I didn't know if it was sharing right or not.
Aw, nice.
The poem, this is what the poem looks like in the book. And so I will,
I remember.
So this is.
Not a lot of people put color photos in their books. That's another special item about your book.
It's called Titanic, a main voyage among the clouds. Angels guide thee home. Titanic, majestic lady of the ocean. Maiden, her virgin skirts untethered by the sea. Funnels once loud of joy to sail. Southampton's queen, now quieted by mournful cries. She sits in sand and silt, now sails among the clouds. Mane of iron plates and rivets from hands of Belfast lock. She stood tall and honorable, her name Titanic, maiden beauty. She sits in sand and silt, now sails among the clouds. Her wardens, proud and great persona, enjoyed her hospitality. She gave them respite. Her name, Titanic, maiden beauty. She sits in sand and silt, now sails among the clouds. The sea parted bravely at her bow, giving way for new adventures. Liners looked to her royalty. Her name, Titanic, maiden beauty. She sits in sand and silt, now sails among the clouds. The sea, unkind and cold, took her with crude force, stripped her of her grace. Her name, Titanic, maiden beauty. She sits in sand and silt, now sails among the clouds. Her charge is taken without consent, within the dark of night, the Atlantic unsympathetic and unkind. Her name, Titanic, maiden beauty. She sits in sand and silk, now sails among the clouds. Her back was broken, bleeding forth. The sea poured salt within her wounds. Lamenting cries from decks of severed wood. Her name, Titanic, maiden beauty. She sits in sand and silt, now sails among the clouds. Lifeboats had no recourse to save the one she loved. The sea was cruel and ruthless. Her name, Titanic, maiden beauty. She sits in sand and silt, now sails among the clouds. Within her stern, a prayer was heard. Heaven's ears opened to desperate shrills. Clouds parted with wings of hope. Her name, Titanic, maiden beauty. She sits in sand and silt, now sails among the clouds. Angels heard the cries of Titanic's humanity, flew down with care and hope, bodies lost within Mir's womb. Her name Titanic maiden beauty. She sits in sand and silt, now sails among the clouds. God sent his angels, soldiers to guard the souls that keep. They held the bow within the confines of their wings, to shield the evil of the night and give gentle care. Her name Titanic maiden beauty. She sits in sand and silt, now sails among the clouds. She came to rest within the caverns of a watery grave. Entombed within the coral reef, she gives herself in vain. To keep the ones within her hull a forever place to sleep. Her name, Titanic maiden beauty. She sits in sand and silt, now sails among the clouds. We came to know her in our hearts, for those she left behind. We mourn your grace and harm and charm. We mourn our family and friends. Her name, Titanic maiden beauty. She sits in sand and silt, now sails among the clouds. For now, Titanic, your main voyage flies among the clouds in starry night to bring the souls of those within. Your guardian angels guide thee home, for now to heaven's rest. Amen.
Oh, so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. There we are again.
Ah, beautiful photo. You're like sisters.
Yeah, we are.
Sisters from other misters.
Yes, I love these photos too. And when Angelica was earlier speaking about how she felt when she arrived and saw the gravestone, it was.
Wait, can you hold it on that too? I'm listening. I just want to take a picture. I didn't want to just zoom off. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I remember when we walked into the gravesite, and I was preparing myself for that because this was a moment that Angelica was thinking about and waiting for a long, long time, and she was indeed shaking. And I just gave her time. You know, I was there, and she talked about it. It was one of the things that I remember the most, certainly, from that first time when she visited. Was that moment in time, kind of thing.
All I remember is looking at this grave, and then what I do feel is, even though Alberto and Sebastiano aren't there entombed, but they're there. One is on one side of Luigi, the other is on the other, and they're there. They're there in spirit, and they'll always be with me. I know all the time, whenever I do anything for them, there's always a feeling of peace and hope now that I get from them. So, yeah, it's because they were found. They were found. So, but you know, when I know we're old historians here, but I want to say something that is very precious to me. If you have family anywhere and you need to find them, or you need to search for them, or you need just for your own self-worth to think about who your family was and where you came from, go search. It's very important, because even though Alberto and Sebastiano aren't my blood relatives, I learned more about myself through them, and perseverance that I have through them, because they persevered. They were young. They were 17 and 20. They wanted a life. They wanted something special to give back to their family, and also to bring their family to America, and hoping to make the money, and yet it didn't happen. But we all need to pursue family. And whether I never realized that I would end up having a big family in my life with my Titanic family. I had no idea that I'd end up having adopted brothers and sisters like Dee and Neil and Tom and Matt and you, Jill, and you, Richard, and anybody else. I think people left the meeting, but it's, I mean, Charlie Haas became my big brother. And there are, it's just.
It's a big family.
It is a big family. And I
Yeah,
wish
people have little arguments like family and disagreements like family and stop talking to each other and talk to each other again like family. It's just like a family.
Yeah, we do. So what?
I know, but I think it's great. It's like, you know, we all found this family that we didn't even know, you know, because without, you know, Facebook and the internet, we never would have found each other. You know, how would you have found Dee and, you know,
But anyway,
and share all this wonderful things with their group. Thank you so much for all this.
Oh, you're welcome. And I was so happy to be here today and be able to share my story and share it with Dee and you, Jill, and you, Richard, and Maria and Terry. I don't know why they had to leave, but I know they had to leave for some reason. But thank you for coming. Thank you for making this happen today. And Richard, thank you for your slides and sharing. It made the talk a whole lot easier.
He's so talented.
Anytime you need to do this somewhere else, just let me know and I'll be there.
Thank you. You know, I've actually been thinking about doing something like a Titanic summit, where even though we can't be together, maybe do something in a meeting form like this. It would be fun.
Oh yeah, we're thinking of where Richard and I have been playing around with having some events and starting to collect funds and call it the Titanic Relief Fund, so that when, you know, members of our Titanic family are struggling, you know, we have some funds that, you know, we could help them out. So we've been in the talks with doing something like this.
You know, if you do something like that too, we could even talk about Titanic scholarships. You know, kids who are struggling.
Right. Absolutely.
Because there are a lot of people struggling, and sometimes people can't afford books. You know, that's something small, or they have a major health issue.
Well, right now, let's face it, with COVID-19, first of all, being the mother of a boy who was special needs, and Dee knows where I am, where my head is right now.
Yes.
Maria, who left us, I mean, COVID-19 has taken so many funds from us.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, families could use the extra scholarships to get help. And I mean, I have a nonprofit, my Excalibur Reading Program. I could help with, you know, talk to my lawyer, of course, because any additional programs I have to make sure that are compliant with my 501. But if we're doing anything educational, of course, we could call it the Excalibur / Titanic, you know, scholarship fund for any child that needs any extra assistance. You know, maybe getting a Chromebook. Let's face it, so many kids today, they need internet service.
Yes.
Their parents can't even afford an itty bitty thing like this.
Right.
Because they're out of work. So why don't we see if we could put something together?
Okay, we'll talk to you, Richard. Let's mark that down on our. We're definitely looking. We're looking for support with this new project
Right,
of ours.
Let's, you know, let me build up before we do anything.
Yeah.
Let me build up a proposal.
Okay.
Because that is compliant with other organizations that could grow with us.
Yes.
So we could have something, and I could start working on that this weekend. Because before I start classes, let me start thinking about it.
Okay, well, I'm glad I mentioned it because you have such a kind and caring heart too. And
hey, I work with kids. I know what these kids need.
Me too.
You know?
Yeah.
I have a 501c3 I'm sitting on that was for the Railway Museum, and we transferred out, and the corporation's still alive, but it's not doing anything. It's dormant. So as long as we shift into another 501c3 uh, style activity, then
Well,
that,
I have a 501c, and I
yeah.
have all my documents are current, so we could, you know, do some things, and D and I, we could all meet together on a
Oh
separate call.
yeah, let's we could have a
Absolutely.
Zoom too and sit and chit chat because Richard has this great quote. While we're sitting on the lifeboat, we can reach into the water, and help people a little
Exactly.
bit, or
Yep.
Exactly.
use
There's a
it.
lifeboat there. As long as we could give
Yeah.
people a lifeboat, let's do it.
Yeah, because
Let's
some
do it.
people don't really have close families or strong families, and like you said, Titanic is family to so many, and
Yeah, we have a wide crew. I mean, and with conventions coming up, we could think about offering scholarships and talk about. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out
yeah.
in a separate
Okay.
forum.
Any closing words before I stop the recording and shut down the Facebook stream, and then we can go on it for a few minutes if we want after that.
Yeah, a little bit.
Um, what I want to say is thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Dee, Jill, Richard, Maria, Terry, aren't here right now.
And everybody
Um,
watching in the book club, we push this to the book club, which I haven't checked in, but they could be commenting.
Buy the book, it's on the screen.
but thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Dee, and Neil for your expertise in making the book be splendid to everyone. For anyone who did a review, thank you. You honor me. Um, First thing I want to say is Titanic is real. She's not just a piece of history on a page. She's real,
Yeah.
as flesh and blood as we are. Her memory needs to be sacred. We can't be
Yeah.
we can't be digging into things that we do not belong. She's sacred ground. She deserves her peace and her harmony. Where she is and the people who are in tune, who are in heaven right now, they deserve their peace for their legacy. We are here to carry on their legacy in peace and harmony and let people know who they really were.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
and if you have family, whether it was on Titanic or on the Britannic or on Olympic or on any other ship or place in history, look for them. You're going to have a lot of surprises, and I hope many, many good ones.
Aw, yes.
Anyway,
Oh,
thank
thank
you
you
all for
so
being here,
much.
and
Thank you for your time, being so wonderful.
thank you for having me, and thank you again, and God bless you, everyone. And may I always close it. May Titanic and her wards rest in peace among the clouds and in God's grace. Amen.
Oh, I love that. Amen.
Thanks.